Imagine a paradise turning into your worst nightmare in a matter of seconds. Three thrill-seeking friends, Maddie, Trish, and Josh, decide to take their jet skis out into the open ocean, looking for the ultimate adrenaline rush. They end up discovering a hidden, isolated lagoon surrounded by sharp coral reefs. It is beautiful, cut off from the rest of the world, and only accessible during high tide. It feels like the perfect playground, but they have no idea they just rode straight into a death trap. As they are laughing and enjoying the water, something heavy violently slams into Josh's jet ski from underneath. The impact flips him into the water, and his phone sinks straight to the bottom. Maddie, who is standing on a floating pad nearby, tries to see what happened. Trish panics and scrambles onto the pad with her. Josh thinks he just hit a rock and starts swimming back to check his jet ski. But as he looks down into the clear blue water, his face freezes in pure terror. He screams and tries to swim back, but an invisible, massive force drags him down into the abyss. Within seconds, the water turns blood red. Josh is gone. Maddie and Trish are left paralyzed by fear. They realize they are trapped with a monster. Desperate to survive, they try to paddle their floating pad toward a tiny, jagged rock sticking out of the water. They move as quietly as possible, terrified of making a sound. Suddenly, a massive, 30-foot killer whale, an orca, slowly glides right beneath them. The water is stained with Josh's blood, splashing over them. Just as they reach out to touch the rock, their floating pad is violently yanked backward. They paddle with all their might, but the force is too strong. When Maddie looks closely, she realizes the orca has caught the trailing tow rope in its mouth. It is playing with them. Orcas have the intelligence of a teenager, and this one is using its brain to hunt. If you like this intense survival story so far, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell right now, because the twists are about to get even crazier. Maddie notices something else. The orca's dorsal fin is severely bent. In the wild, these majestic creatures have straight fins. A bent fin means only one thing. This whale spent years in captivity, swimming in tight circles inside a tiny aquarium. In fact, this specific orca had developed severe mental health issues from being confined and had recently killed its trainer. To avoid a scandal, the aquarium quietly released it back into the wild. Now, trapped in this small lagoon due to the low tide, the traumatized whale thinks it is back in prison, and it views these humans as its captors. Maddie knows they have to get off the water before the pad is torn to shreds. She convinces Trish to make a run for it. Trish summons all her courage and dives into the water, swimming furiously toward the rock. But as Maddie tries to follow, her backpack slips open, and her hearing aid batteries float away. Maddie is deaf, and without those batteries, she will be left in absolute silence. She tries to grab them, but the orca is swimming right toward her. She abandons the batteries and climbs back onto the pad. Trish makes it to the rock, cutting her legs badly on the sharp edges. Maddie throws the backpack to her, but in the chaos, the tow rope falls into the water again. Trish tries to distract the whale by throwing stones, giving Maddie a chance to swim. But before Maddie can move, the rope goes taut. The orca pulls it again, ripping the pad open. As the air hisses out, Maddie is forced to jump into the water. She swims for her life and barely manages to pull herself onto the rock. Now, both girls are stranded on a tiny rock with the tide going down and the sun setting. Trish is bleeding heavily from her thigh. Maddie uses a sharp stone to cut her jacket into strips, bandaging Trish's wound in her own foot, which she cut on a sharp shell. They are hungry, exhausted, and down to their last piece of chewing gum. Trish finds a Ziploc bag in the backpack. She blows it full of air and seals it, hoping the heat of the sun will create condensation and give them a few drops of fresh water. But that will take hours. As dusk falls, they suddenly hear a distant horn. A massive ship is passing by. They scream and wave their arms frantically, but the ship is too far away. Their only hope of rescue vanishes into the horizon. Night falls. Maddie spots a severed arm floating in the water nearby. It's Josh's arm, and his waterproof flashlight is still strapped to his wrist. Risking everything, they lean over the edge and fish the flashlight out. At least now, they have a light source for the dark night. By morning, the Ziploc bag has collected a few drops of water, just enough to wet their parched throats. Starving, Maddie decides to dive near the edge to collect some wild shells to eat. She gets the food but bumps her head on the rock, bleeding. They have no tools to crack the hard shells open. Maddie hesitates, then pulls out a small metal box from her bag. Trish tries to stop her because that box contains the ashes of Maddie's late boyfriend. He had been shot and killed during a robbery years ago, the same accident that caused Maddie to lose her hearing. This trip was meant to scatter his ashes in the ocean. But to survive, Maddie uses the heavy lid to smash the shells open. They eat the raw, foul-smelling meat inside. As Maddie prepares to scatter the remaining ashes into the water, Trish breaks down crying. Driven by intense guilt, Trish confesses a dark secret. Years ago, she was the one who gave the tip to the robbers because she needed money. She never knew Maddie would be working that shift, or that her boyfriend would die. Maddie is completely shattered by the betrayal of her best friend. In pure anger and pain, she pulls off her hearing aid and shuts it down. She chooses absolute silence over listening to Trish's apologies. Knowing they won't last another day and wanting to redeem herself, Trish decides to make the ultimate sacrifice. She tells Maddie through sign language that she will swim toward the distant shore to draw the whale away, giving Maddie a path to safety. Trish dives into the water. Because Maddie cannot hear, she doesn't realize Trish is already far away until it's too late. The orca spots Trish and gives chase. Trish desperately swims and manages to drag herself onto the sandy shore. Just then, a rescue helicopter flies overhead. Trish frantically writes SOS in the sand and screams, but the helicopter flies away without noticing her. In despair, Trish curses at the sky, completely unaware that she is still too close to the water's edge. In a terrifying flash, the orca launches its massive body onto the sand, grabbing Trish by the thigh and dragging her into the water. Trish fights back and manages to stay on land, but her leg is completely severed, and she bleeds out on the sand. Maddie watches her friend die from across the water. Now, she is completely alone on a narrow rock. Dark clouds roll in, bringing a violent thunderstorm with lightning. Maddie's flashlight and hearing aid completely die. The total darkness and absolute silence amplify her terror. But as the heavy rain pours, she uses it to drink and replenish her energy. Through a flash of lightning, she sees the orca surfacing right next to her. Looking closely, she sees a long, thin scar near its eye, a mark of human cruelty. She feels a strange moment of empathy for the beast, but she knows it's a matter of survival. The roaring thunder gives her an idea. She dives into the water and swims like crazy toward the shore. Surprisingly, the orca doesn't attack. The intense noise from the thunderstorm has disrupted the whale's echolocation, blinding its natural radar. Maddie reaches the shore safely. She remembers that Trish's waterproof phone is still in the storage compartment of the sunken jet ski. She takes a deep breath, dives back into the stormy water, and locates the wreck. She retrieves the bag, which also contains a sharp, metal cello endpin that Trish wanted to gift her. As Maddie surfaces, the storm abruptly stops. The silence returns, meaning the orca's echolocation is back online. The water ripples. The whale is right beneath her. Realizing she can't outswim it, Maddie decides to fight. She dives underwater, holding the sharp metal rod. As the orca opens its massive jaws to swallow her, Maddie thrusts the metal rod directly into the whale's eye. The orca thrashes in agonizing pain, losing its eye. At that exact moment, the high tide rolls in, fully connecting the lagoon back to the deep ocean. Giving up on its revenge, the injured whale swims out to the open sea, finally free. Maddie grabs a life jacket, floating on the surface as a rescue boat finally approaches in the distance. She survived the deep blue nightmare. If you liked this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up, share your thoughts in the comments below, and subscribe to the channel for more jaw-dropping movie recaps just like this one.